it finally worked. Oh, yay. Thank you. So, YouTube has been doing very strange things. So it just sat there and spun and spun and spun and spun and spun and spun and spun. And now finally I'm here. So hi, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon now, which is now 12:03. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions herein are mine and mine alone. They're not anybody else's, not the ACA, not the APA, not nobody, just mine. I would like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. If you are international, if you are in any other country, they will set you up with a counselor here in the US. And you just go in, fill out a few questions, and they'll get you set up with somebody who is master's level or PhD level. If you are here in the US and you want to do online therapy and you don't like the therapist that's in your little town and you don't want to drive forever, go on to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, and they will set you up with a licensed therapist in your state. And they are master's level or PhD level. So there it is. Anyway, hi guys. Sorry about that. There was technical difficulties. It's like I tried to log in and get everything going and it just sat there and spun and spun and spun. So I do apologize for that. Okay, some of the books that you need to be getting for sure. Shahida Arabi's Highly Sensitive Person's Guide to Dealing with Toxic People. Okay, this is a good one for this conversation that we're having today, too, because she's got some great journaling suggestions. That's why I like this book. Obviously, You're Still That Girl, Susanna Quintana, SusannaQuintana.com. She's awesome. She is an abuse recovery expert. I love her. She's amazing. And Splitting by Bill Eddie and Randy Krieger. If you are going through a divorce, you are going to want to read this because they're going to do everything that I've talked about on here and they talk about it in there. So a little reinforcement. It's all good. And then of course my books, What's Wrong with Your Dad? And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them cha-chas. Both available on Audible and Amazon and Kindle. So there that is. Okay. Yesterday I finished finally doing the Audible for So You Want to Be a Therapist. Everything is getting edited. It's getting put together. So that will be available probably in January. So sometime in January, the book is going to be released and the Audible is going to be released. So there's that. I'm excited about that. All right. So let's talk about how to stand up for yourself in a bunch of different situations. So first of all, let's understand why it's so hard for us to stand up for ourselves. We've been groomed. We have been groomed. And when we stood up to our abusers, what would happen? Usually not anything good. So they would either abuse more, or they would throw us out of the house, or they would, do whatever their punishment BS stuff was, or they'd flip it on us and use the you guns, or they would, whatever. So we learned quickly early on that it wasn't okay to confront. And we've gotten this really bad connotation to confronting. So instead of thinking of confronting as standing up for ourselves and clarifying, we think of it as something, oh my God, horrible, awful, and to be avoided. No. Confrontation for us is a good thing. Clarifying for us is a good thing because we are standing up for our boundaries and we are standing up for ourselves. So the tools you're going to need to do that are as follows. Glenn Schiraldi's The Self-Esteem Workbook. I am not just whistling a tune when I say that. I mean it. You guys go get it and start working it. Why? Because in that workbook, he has a section on what is your value? What is your worth? Do you understand you have value and you have worth and you are worth fighting for yourself? So that's why I like that workbook. So Glenn Schiraldi's The Self-Esteem Workbook. The next thing, The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. Why? People pleasing. So when we are a people pleaser, we hate or are afraid of clarification, confrontation, because we don't want to disappoint the other person. But what ends up happening is people who are not looking out for our best interest will mow right over us. And I want to talk about that because twice now this year, I've had two friends have doctors that did the wrong thing or misdiagnosed, and they just believed them because people pleasers, God bless them. And, they're the expert. No, guys, no. This goes for me. This goes for doctors. This goes for anybody. Listen, but verify. Seriously, listen, but verify. So I'm fine with people going, oh, well, I'm going to challenge this or I'm going to talk with it. That's great. But if they start quoting people that are not scholarly articles, I'm going to say, go get a scholarly article and then let's talk. So, but seriously, so I had one friend that was misdiagnosed with colon cancer, ended up dying because they misdiagnosed it. And she just went along because she did, oh, they're the experts. And I'm like, no. And then I had another friend recently who had a therapy given to them, medicine, whatever, and it really messed with him. And he kind of had that warning kind of going, I don't know about this. I shouldn't, maybe I should double check. And he didn't do it because he just believed the doctors. So basically what it is, listen, but verify, and listen to your gut. And you're not going to be able to hear your gut if you haven't worked on self-esteem, that rock solid self-esteem and boundaries. The other thing you're going to need in no uncertain terms is your list of deal breakers. You absolutely need your list of deal breakers. And we talked about this last week, that, oh, well, the list of deal breakers is going to be different for friends than it is for lovers, than it is for bosses. No, it's all the same. I don't care who they are. If they disrespect you, if they roll their eyes at you, that goes for doctors. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that. If they are making your work life miserable, if you're getting up in the morning and throwing up because you don't want to go into work because you're a stressed out little person because they're driving you crazy. Yeah, those are all deal breakers. Those are all deal breakers. So disrespect, name calling, anxiety inducing people, drama, these are all deal breakers. And the other thing you're going to have to get used to is the word no. And you're going to have to tolerate other people's being disappointed or trying to use fear, obligation, and guilt to get you to do what they want you to do. So standing up for yourself, really honest to God, is working on your self-esteem, working on your boundaries, and having your list of deal breakers and being okay with the word no and okay with somebody not liking you. And that's hard for us as survivors of abuse because our survival had always depended on, if not the abuser liking us, at the very least not abusing us, right? So we would, bend ourselves over backwards trying to make them happy, right? So in your mirror work, you are going to get used to saying the word no. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to have boundaries. I give you permission to say no and mean it. And then you just keep working on that. You keep working on that because that's a really scary thing to put into practice. But you've got to start doing it because otherwise you're going to find abusers everywhere. So remember how I talked about, the statistics say, oh, it's only 9% of the population. I'm like, BS. No, it is closer to probably 30 to 40% because they don't go get diagnosed. They just don't. They don't go get help. So you've got a greater number of abusers, narcissists out there than is in the scholarly work. So, and it's like I said, because they don't go get help, it does not get diagnosed. It does not get put into these statistics. So, and honestly, it's like personal observation. How many completely disrespectful, nasty, mean, narcissistic people are in positions of power? A whole lot. I've seen a whole lot. So, okay. So what you're going to want to do is you want to give yourself permission to say no. You need to understand your value, your worth. You are worthy and it's okay. Give yourself permission to second guess an authority figure. Seriously, doctors are the worst with this. And there's so much to talk about. So I wanted to hit, I think, so basically, in order to be able to stand up for yourself, you have got to understand you are worthy. You have got to understand that you have value and that your words matter, that you need to be heard, that this is something that doctors do that just pisses me right the bleep off. They don't want to listen. The narcissistic ones, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. They don't want to, and you're dealing with somebody's life. So if you're giving them a wrong medication that's going to mess them up, like what happened with my one friend, or you're giving a misdiagnosis, yeah, you better listen. So, okay, your voice is valuable. And that is something to remind yourself of when you're doing your daily affirmations. I have the right to be heard and believed. And I think that's the component that messes us up, because how many times did we ask for help? I don't know about you, but I asked for help loudly multiple times and nobody would do anything because they didn't want to get involved. Didn't want to have to do the paperwork, didn't want to sully their hands, didn't want to piss off my dad, whatever. So we very quickly learned that nobody's going to hear us and nobody's going to believe us. Here's the thing. That's the inner child. So we got to get the inner child up to speed, that they are heard, they are believed, and it is okay for them to ask for what they need. That's why I keep saying, work on the inner child, work on the self-esteem, work on understanding your value and your worth. Because if you don't, it's going to be extremely hard for you to stand up for yourself, because you're not going to believe it. You're going to be like timid or frightened or scared or apologetic. Oh, no. Oh, no. When you're dealing with somebody who is clearly in the wrong and they're in a position of power, you're not going to apologize. Don't apologize, especially if they're wrong, especially if it's a doctor, especially if it's a therapist, especially if it's anybody in a position of power. Now, I think the hardest one, because somebody had asked me specifically, what do you do with a narcissistic boss? So hang on, let me find that. Okay. This is from Inc. By Lolly Daskell. And this is how she suggested dealing with a narcissistic boss. Here are the 10 power moves that will help you deal and keep you from feeding the narcissistic behavior. Understand the source. To cope with your narcissistic boss, you have to understand what's going on. The odds are very high. They are never going to change, and they are never going to be easy to work with. The description that's been going around under names like the narcissist prayer sums it up well. That didn't happen. If it did happen, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, it's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. Basically, what she's trying to say is you got to really decide if you want to stay in that situation or not. And the good news, bad news is that I read an article today, and it was on CNN, about how companies are less likely to fire people now because people are less likely to put up with BS. And I think that's great. So, if you're in a job and you need that income and you don't have a second job set up, then you kind of are at a power differential with that boss. And narcissists know it. Narcissists thrive on power differentials. Narcissists thrive on making you feel less than. So you have to decide whether this is something you can tough out until you get another job. Or conversely, if you're waking up at 2:00 in the morning throwing up because you can't stand the idea of going to work, for the love of God and all that's holy, quit. Find a different job. This is detrimental to your mental health. These types of bully bosses are terrible, and they cause mental and physical damage. They do. They make unreasonable requests on your time. I had this one boss that was insisting that we work on weekends and that we would answer the phone at 2:00 in the morning when he was dead drunk because he wanted to, show us his greatest musical composition, and he hadn't had a hit in years. And I'm just like, no, unplugged the phone, didn't answer it, and pissed him off, but oh well. And then I got out as soon as I could. So, okay, hold on. Back to this one. Respond, don't react. The worst thing you can do with a narcissistic boss is to shine a spotlight on their bad behavior. They thrive on any kind of attention, negative or positive. So if you're broadcasting that, they're this horrible boss, this, that, and the other thing, you are basically giving them carte blanche to start abusing you even worse. What you want to do, though, is to find out, what is the corporate culture? So remember, corporations are only as healthy as the people at the top because doo-doo rolls downhill. So if you've got a bunch of narcissists up here, pretty much they're stacking the rest of the positions of power with other narcissists. So if that's the case, and this goes for like major corporations, this goes for mom and pop corporations. So if you're in a situation where it's like there's no allies, there's no one you can turn to be like, this is crazy, this is unhealthy, this is illegal, this is, because trust me, narcissists will push illegal things. So when I was working for an agency, at one point they got taken over by a corporation and they decided that everyone needed to change their diagnoses so they got more money. That's insurance fraud. I'm not changing the diagnosis. That clearly. So when push came to shove and the boss had their minion call me and demand that I change it, I said, funny, I put in a call to the ACA and talked to their lawyers and they said, no, don't you dare. So if you would like to have the ACA crawl up your hind end, fine, try to make me change my stuff. And at that point, I knew the time was ticking and I had to get out of there. So do you see where I'm going with that? So they'll ask you to do illegal things. They'll ask you to do immoral things. They'll ask you to do unethical things. They'll ask you to do, they'll ask you to stay at work, 16, 17 hours. It's ridiculous. No, you don't have to. So that's when you have to decide, is it worth my mental health to stay here or not? And some people, they say, yeah, it is because I need the job. Other people are like, no. So if you're going to stay, these are the things to help you kind of deal with it. Don't react, respond. The worst thing you can do is shine a spotlight. We talked about that. Instead, learn to respond in an effective way that keeps you in control of options and choices. If you feel yourself reacting, i.e., getting emotional, step away and regain back your control. Remember, narcissists poke. And they want you to blow up. They want you to melt into 1,000 tears. They want you to come unglued so they can point the finger and go, oh, see, they're just too sensitive. They're, that whole thing. You're basically never going to win with a narcissistic boss is what I'm trying to say. And if you are going to stay in that environment, you are going to have to gray rock like a Zen master. Seriously, like no matter what they say, no matter what they do, you are no emotion, because if you get emotional, they've got you. Set clear boundaries. Set a firm boundary whenever you need one and stick to it. Remember, boundaries aren't meant to control others. They're a guideline for you to know what is and isn't acceptable. Boundaries are a part of self-care. They're healthy, they're normal, and they're often necessary. So, for example, when my boss wanted me to change the diagnoses, I stood my ground and said no. And I also let them know that I would have the ACA all over them if that happened. So, and that's the problem. Oftentimes you have to have something to be able to whack them with to make them back off. Not always, but in that case, I did, because they were firing therapists left, right, and center because they were getting rid of all the therapists and allowing peer supports who are not trained in psychology to lead groups. And they were wanting to get more and more money. So they were wanting to, basically be unethical. So, but in that case, that's how I stood up to them. It was like, I did my due diligence. I checked with the ACA. I spoke to an attorney. And they knew I wouldn't put up with it. So that's why they backed off. Seriously, narcissists go for people they think they can bully easily. That goes for friendships, bosses, coworkers, the whole thing. They go for people they think they can bully easily. So what I talk about in the book that I'm going to have published in January is I had a professor that thought I was an easy target. And so he was bullying me like crazy until I went over his head, went to the dean, and I basically said, you need to tell this person to back off because I'm not going to put up with it. I know the law and I'm not going to play, and I'm happy to hire an attorney. So what are you going to do? And he backed off because they didn't want to get sued. So again, it's sometimes you have to have a stick to whap them with that'll make them back off. You're not always going to have that as a worker. Not always. Now, in my case, I was lucky. I had the ACA and I had attorneys at the ACA that I had spoken to. So, where I'm going with that. So, yeah. Okay. Setting clear boundaries. Now they're going to blow over those clear boundaries, but so, just like with the boss I had back in LA that was calling us at 2 o'clock in the morning, I basically unplugged the phone. And when he complained, I said, I am under no obligation to answer your drunk phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of a legal thing with California there, dude. Again, you cannot allow bullies to bully. Now, what is it inside of me that allowed me to do that? Because I still was working on stuff at that time. I think it's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. My response is almost always fight. It's like, really? You bring it. Bring it. Let's see how that ends for you. It's not going to end well. Let me tell you that. So, it's that nature, nurture, that whole thing. Now, however, medically, I have been known to just cower and give in to a doctor and then regret it later on. So this is why I want to talk about all this stuff. So again, once I started working on my self-esteem, though, that has not happened. So hold on. Let's get back to the boss thing. Don't allow them to get under your skin. Narcissists thrive on getting a rise out of someone, especially someone they feel they have power over. They will goad you, shame you, call you out in big meetings, embarrass you, and humiliate you. But you don't have to allow any of that to get under your skin. Use emotional intelligence to manage your thoughts and actions. And remember that any cruel behavior and words reflect badly on the narcissist, not on you. It does. It feels intensely personal when they do that. So like you're in a big meeting and they zero in on you, you give them nothing. No shame. Just look at them. Mm-hmm. 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 And again, I would suggest that your time there is probably limited. I would leave. I wouldn't put up with it. Don't feed the beast. Narcissistic bosses need constant flying monkeys. They need to be admired. They need to be told how great they are, this, that, and the other thing. It's good to understand that the bad behavior comes from insecurity, and the more the narcissistic boss acts out, the more insecure they are. But it's important to remember that the more you feed the bad behavior, the worse it will become. Narcissists surround themselves with only two types of people: those who enable them and those who bite their tongue. Seriously. Anyone who doesn't fit into these two categories will certainly be fired or banished, or if the narcissist has their way, manipulated into thinking it was their fault. That's why I'm saying if you've got a narcissistic boss, the best thing to do, gray rock, start looking for a new job. Seriously. But while you're there having to deal with these jackwagons, you put up boundaries. No, and I mean it. No is a complete sentence. No, I am not going to explain no. Do you see where I'm going with that? And they won't like it. They won't. And they'll probably make your last few weeks there as miserable as possible, but they're going to make your weeks there miserable anyway. So you might as well, do what you can to draw boundaries and protect yourself. Don't empower those that don't deserve it. We know your narcissistic boss holds some degree of power by virtue of their position, but we also know that there's no leaders without followers. Refuse to follow those you don't admire, those you don't trust, and those who just lie. You do your job to the best of your ability with respect, honor, and integrity. When you do, you'll be known as one of the sane ones, maybe even the only sane one, which is when you need to get out because it's just too much stress. Fact check everything. Narcissistic bosses will lie to you. They will send you down the wrong path. They will tell you to do something one way and then you do it that way. And then they come back and scream at you. I never said that. Gaslighting, lying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If that's happening, get out, get out, get out. You've already stated your boundaries. They're never going to accept that they gaslighted, you know what I'm saying? They're never going to admit that they said the wrong thing to you. So to try to sit there and try to get other people to see your point of view is just going to end up damaging you. You hold on to your morals, you hold on to your integrity, you hold on to your boundaries, you start looking for another job, you get the bleep out. Absolutely. Okay, hang on. Don't argue with them. That's what they want. They want a scene. They live off of that narcissistic supply. They want your tears. Your tears are delicious to them. They enjoy that. They want your anger. Your anger is delicious to them. That's their narcissistic supply. Don't give it to them. Stay calm, stay cool, gray rock, facts and figures, and document everything. Don't be provoked. They love to blame other people and they want to Blame whoever they can. Don't allow yourself to be provoked or manipulated. Stay focused on what's important. Working with a narcissistic boss means a constant pull to play by their rules and for everything to revolve around them, with no accountability or responsibility when things go wrong. It's easy to feel angry and frustrated. That's when you have to take a step back and reconnect with your purpose in being there. It's never going to be easy working with a narcissist. Often the wisest thing to do is to walk away. But when that's not possible, remember, you're at least gaining valuable experience in dealing with one of the most difficult personalities you're ever likely to encounter. I would say leave. I would say just get the heck out. Okay, so that's dealing with a narcissistic boss. And there's a difference because there's a power differential. Now, let's say you go into your doctor's office and they roll their eyes at you, or they fluff you off, or they don't explain something, or they prescribe something that you know is not good for you. Some people are allergic to antibiotics, certain antibiotics. And, or addicts, they tell the doctor, I'm an addict. Do not give me anything that is addictive. And what do? They prescribe Percocets. So you want to trust your own gut, and it's difficult to trust your own gut if you haven't realized your own worth, which is why I'm saying Self-Esteem Workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, Mirror Work. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I trust my gut. I have a voice and I want it to be heard. I know my own body. Do you see where I'm going with that? So when you're working with, how to stand up for yourself at a doctor's office. This is the next one. You can't get an important appointment with the specialist you need. Unfortunately, doctor shortages in some areas can cause long wait times for appointments. If you have a good relationship with your family physician or referring physician, ask for that doctor's office help. This is especially important if your medical situation is time sensitive, such as seeing a neurologist following a stroke or an oncologist after a diagnosis of fast-moving cancer. That is not something you want to be waiting around for them to twiddle their thumbs and pull it out of their hind end before they give you a referral. So if you've got a big medical issue going on, stroke is kind of big, hello, cancer, kind of big, hello, don't allow them to dwaddle. Don't allow them to just, I'm not going to take care of it. No. And don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion. So many times we just hand over our power because, they're the doctor. And I used to do that. I did. I don't do that anymore. So, they're the doctor. They know better. Well, no, apparently they don't, because they killed one of my friends and the other one had a bad reaction to a medication. So they don't know everything. Listen, but verify. And if you don't trust the doctor, like if something just feels off, you ever met a doctor where you're just kind of like, this feels off. Something's wrong. Something's not right. Go get a second opinion. It's perfectly okay. It is. You need to trust your gut and your body. Okay, let's see. Okay, your doctor isn't taking your complaints about side effects or symptoms seriously. Some doctors take the approach that bodies are predictable and symptoms are ordered and unfold in a uniform way. No, they don't. Symptoms can be unpredictable and bodies can be disorderly and unstable. So if you're dealing with a doctor that dismisses your concerns, you can try talking to them. You can say, I don't understand why you're not listening to my concerns. This is what my body is doing. I need you to hear me. Point blank. And if they don't, that's when you fire them. Seriously, that's when you go, I'm getting a second opinion. And you go to a different doctor. I know it's a pain in the hind end because, yeah, you're right. Wait lists are really long. It's hard to get into a primary care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But your life and your health is worth it. If they're not listening to you, I wouldn't trust them with anything else. If they're not listening to you with side effects, what makes you think they're going to listen to you with something serious that's going on? I mean, a side effect is serious, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, if they're doing that, get a different doctor. Get a different doctor. Okay, hang on. You feel pressured into a treatment you don't want. So this is what happened to my friend. And he just kind of, oh, well, he's the doctor. He knows more, and what he needed to say was, I need to understand more about why this is being prescribed, what the side effects are, my gut is telling me this. And of course, the doctor was just, rushing him in and out, trying to get to the next client, basically. Have I gone over again? I have, darn it. So here's the other thing. So when you are standing up to these people, calm, non-emotional. So remember, when you're dealing with a narcissist, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, a boss, a friend, a lover, a family member, they do not want, well, they want your emotion. They want you to be angry and upset or sad and scared and crying and whatever. You don't want to give that to them. You want to stick to facts and figures. Now, if this is somebody you're not related to, like a doctor or a lawyer or a judge or whatever, you have the right to be like, yeah, no, here's the facts, here's the figures, and you need to hear me. And then you can fire them. Now, judges, obviously you can't fire, but attorneys you can. So, and it goes for therapists. So you're going to find, oh my good God, you would not believe the number of freaking narcissists there are in my profession. I'd like to go through with a cattle prod and just be like, get out of my profession. Get out of my profession. They're just, don't like them. So if you find yourself with a therapist that you're not jibing with, or if they say something like trying to victim blame you for the abuse, which I hear all the time, fire them. And it doesn't have to be in person. You can send them an email saying, thank you so much. Please cancel my appointments. This is just not working out. And leave it at that. And you owe them zero goose egg explanation. You don't owe them anything. They are providing a service for you. And if they are not giving you the service you need, you fire them. Seriously. So a good therapist does not take a client not gelling with you personally. It happens all the time. I am not for everyone. I am very blunt. I do not sugarcoat things. I am more like a problem solve type of therapist. Some people don't want that. Some people want sugar coated, ease into it. And I'm like, no, we might as well rip the Band-Aid off, So when somebody says, no, this is just not working out, I go, okay, thank you for letting me know. I'll cancel those appointments. I am here if you ever do need me. And that's it. What I have heard from disordered therapists is that they'll argue with the client and try to get them to stay. And I suspect it's money motivated, instead of listening to the client and going, okay, it's just not working. Great. Let me give you some referrals. And, I'm here if you ever need me. You leave it at that, but disordered therapists will try to manipulate, control, gaslight. Oh, you're not really doing, this is just part of your sit. What? No. Oh, please. Oh, please. Go pound sand. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So you have the right to fire your doctor. You have the right to fire your therapist. You have the right to fire your attorney. Oh my God. There are narcissists in the medical profession. There are narcissists in the legal profession. You're going to find narcissists in almost every profession, unfortunately. So you have the right to fire them. And like I said, it's a little more dicey when you've got a job situation because of the power differential. But eventually you're going to have to decide for yourself whether you want to stay in that dysfunctional craziness or whether you're ready to be like, peace out. I am not doing this anymore. So okay, I've gone way over. Let's get to the questions. I hope so. Basically, let me recap here. So, in order to stand up for yourself, you have to have clear boundaries. You have to have a clear sense that you are worthy, that your voice is important, that you need to be heard, and it's okay to ask for what you want. So that means the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Specifically, he's got a chapter in there on your value and your worth. Do you understand that you have value and worth? Do you understand that your voice is powerful? Do you understand you have the right to ask for your gut's, opinion? It's like, do you understand that trusting your gut is a good thing and that you know your body more than anybody else? Do you understand that you have power, that you have the right to say no? That's why the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi is so important. And then working on the people-pleasing stuff so that you don't get caught up in, oh, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings and I don't. No, it doesn't matter what the doctor's feelings are. It doesn't matter what my feelings are. It matters what your feelings are. If it's not working out, it's not working out. That's okay. So again, learning that you have the right to say no, and it doesn't matter what emotional response that person has. They're going to, or not. If they're a narcissist, they won't, but won't be emotional, be angry. Anger is an emotion, but it's their favorite emotion. So anyway, the point being is that boundaries are important. Not people pleasing is hugely important. Having your list of deal breakers is hugely important. Not having somebody roll their eyes at you. Oh, that pisses me off. You want to piss me off. That's the first thing. I say a concern, you roll your eyes. Oh, game on, biatch. Here we go. And I'll call them out. Oh, really? You're going to roll your eyes? Really? How professional is that? I don't have a problem with that. So, and learning to think of confrontation as clarification, protection. It is for your protection to second guess the doctor if your gut is screaming at you. Trust me, I wish Terry had been able to stand up and say, no, something's really wrong, because she'd probably still be with us today. So you've got to be able to say no. You've got to be able to say, my gut is screaming at me. You need to hear me. That kind of thing. So anyway, there that is. Okay, now let's get to the questions. All right. Okay. Question. My abusive narcissistic father is guilting me to nurse him as everyone else won't help. He won't get professional help, and I have no power of attorney. Also, I'm almost at no contact. You don't have to fall for the guilt trip, guys. You don't. Anybody who's using fear, obligation, and guilt, and using all three, that's the emotional fog. You are under no obligation to care for this person. You aren't. What you can do is hook them up with a social worker. Seriously, hook him up with a social worker and get him into the services that he needs, because that's probably what's going to end up happening. So no power of attorney, there's nothing you can do, because you would need a power of attorney to do everything. But what you can do is you can call Adult Protective Services, hook him up with a social worker and let the social worker figure out the care situation for him. Absolutely. Now, to deal with the guilt, you're going to write the guilt a goodbye letter. Dear guilt, go pound sand. I don't need to feel guilty. I am almost no contact with this person. This is another game. This is another manipulation. I've gotten him to the appropriate care in that I've gotten him to a social worker who's going to find him the services he needs. I am done. I wash my hands. I am taking my power back. Have a nice life, guilt. Go pound sand. Bye-bye. And then trot it out to the barbecue. Read it out loud once. Burn it. Let it go. So yeah, you are under no obligation to care for him. I would contact Adult Protective Services and set up care that way. Question. We went no contact with in-laws who showed up after 4 years to inform us our niece was on life support. She passed away and was only 19. Oh, I'm so sorry. Advice for grieving a loss like this. Oh, grief sucks. It sucks. So write and burn. Write and burn, write and burn, write and burn. That's the best way to deal with it. Grief is a bitch. It just is. Because you go through all the emotions: anger, sadness, acceptance, numbness, guilt, sadness, fear, the whole thing. It's a plethora of emotions, and it comes in waves, and it sucks. That's the best way I can put it, is that guilt truly sucks. So in dealing with a loss of a niece who was only 19, you write and burn her letters, do a celebration of the life. What did she like? What foods did she like? What did she like to do? Write about that. Write about the memories that you had of her, and write and burn, write and burn, write and burn, write and burn until you get it out. So, and grieving, let me just remind everybody, lasts a minimum of a year. Okay. Because you have to get through all the firsts, all of the first holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever, until you get to the anniversary of the death. And now you're on to the second year of grieving, where you're moving them into a different space in your head, kind of thing. And it's a little less intense. It's still intense, but it's a little less intense, and it's a little different. Intense grieving, complicated grieving, where there's been abuse or neglect or whatever, that can go onwards of 3 years. So Give yourself time, give yourself space, and give yourself permission. And that's the biggest thing is this country is so uncomfortable with tears, so uncomfortable with grieving. I literally had clients be told to get over it when their child died a week later. If I could give a middle finger right now, I would. So just in your mind, I'm flipping that person off. Yeah. So yeah, that boss, a boss, not surprising, told them to get over it in a week. So that's a sign of a narcissistic society that cannot handle grieving. So what you want to do is write it out, allow, and give yourself permission. And remember the good times, write those out. You can keep those, or if you need to burn it, burn it. So do something to honor that niece, donate, to a cause in that niece's name. You can do things like that. Absolutely. All right. The other thing of it is too, I want to mention is that in-laws that you've been no contact with showed up after 4 years. Okay. So something to be aware of is they're going to use that as the excuse to stay in contact with you. So if you went no contact with them and your life was better, go back to no contact now that they've informed you of the niece. So yeah. So just be aware, narcissists use the I'm dying or somebody else is dying Hoover. They also use the health Hoover, like the first one, you have to take care of me. They'll use any excuse they can to try to get back in contact. So if you were happier being no contact and it was good, then go right back to no contact, because they'll try to use this death as an excuse to continue contact with you, just to be aware. Okay. How do I defend myself against a histrionic personality type? I've taken the first few initial steps with traditional blocking, but I'm still worried. Well, okay. So histrionic is drama king, drama queen, drama, 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 drama. So blocking should do it. If they are more psychotic, they'll do the stalking kind of thing. So basically, you have to understand personality disordered people, the further down the line they get. So there's traits of down here, there's full blown down here. The further down the line they get, the more all of the other personality disorders kind of start overlapping, which is why you get like the dark triad, which is psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and then you throw in borderline, histrionic, avoidant, OCD. They'll have traits of all of them once they get further down the line. The ones who stalk tend to be psychotic. They tend to be psychopaths. They do. Antisocial personality disorder, because they tend to think that the rules do not apply to them. Like seriously, like they think it's perfectly okay to follow somebody around a parking lot of a grocery store and scream at them and threaten them, thinking that nobody's going to do anything and nobody's going to call the cops. Oh yeah. I've seen that happen. So, it's, and of course they have a previous conviction for a felony assault too. It's like, and they think there's going to be no repercussions from that. So remember, abusers thrive on intimidation. They want to intimidate. They want to make you fearful. They want to live rent-free right up here. Don't go do that. Don't do that. You've blocked them. Stop worrying. Stop contact with them. Don't allow flying monkeys, right? So if somebody contacts you and says, oh, so-and-so wants me to get in touch with you, or so-and-so said such and such, you cut them off cold and go, I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested. Go away. or I'm going to block you too. The only time that you would need to up things is if they are stalking you, harassing you. So like they're calling from different phone numbers, they're calling from, or they're emailing you, or they're calling from friends' phones, or they're stalking you on social media, posting inappropriate things, stalking you in a public place, that kind of thing. Then you're going to probably want to file an order of protection, and you will need documentation. So it used to be they handed out orders of protection like candy on Halloween. Now they don't do that. So you need to have documentation. You need to have screenshots. You need to have proof that this person has, over a period of time, continue to harass and stalk. So there you go. So right now, though, you've blocked them. Don't worry about it. Seriously. It's like they're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're going to smear, they're going to whatever. You can't control them, but you just don't play their game unless they start, unless they start really stalking, then you get an order of protection. File a police report. If somebody stalks you in a public place and they're screaming and yelling at you, you call the police, you file a police report, and that will be used again to get that order of protection. Absolutely. Okay. How to reduce PTSD on my own. I am listening to Pete Walker's From Surviving to Thriving, but would like to do more, something I can do on a daily basis. Okay, so you can do meditation. You can do positive affirmations. You can be working on the self-esteem, because remember, this is all interconnected. Trust me, it's not like self-esteem and PTSD are two separate things. They're all helped by self-esteem. Self-esteem really, truly is the key. You love yourself, you take care of yourself. You take care of yourself, you address your PTSD symptoms, and you don't allow anyone to abuse you again. So I would suggest meditation. I would suggest working on self-esteem, working on boundaries, writing, journaling. I love writing and journaling, or singing, or, whatever creative thing you have to help you deal with the PTSD. Absolutely. So, yeah, there it is. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Okay. All right. And mirror work. So remember, mirror work is hugely important because you're reprogramming your brain. You're telling the brain, okay, this happened. Okay. And now I have permission to deal with it. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. It's okay to talk to your inner children, or, hey, good to see you. Have a great day. It's okay to say no. Or, hey, great to see you. Have a great day. Yeah, you're going to have flashbacks. You know what? You're okay. Because that's true. When we have PTSD, we have emotional flashbacks, we have physical flashbacks, we have, and so you just allow yourself to allow and be gentle with you. That is the big thing. And you do meditation and you write and you journal and you do all of that. So there it is. Okay. How to stop feeling scared of an angry narc when we stop fawning. Well, you're always going to have that danger response. You are, because they're dangerous. Let's face it. So angry narcs, remember, they try to control through intimidation. That's what they want. They want you scared. They want that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And when you stop fawning, yeah, it's going to piss them off. So basically, as soon as you can, get away from them. Get away from them, because they're not going to change. They don't. They get worse with age. They get nastier. They get vicious. They get crazy. I was just reading this article today on a website that was a sting website for people who were looking to hire somebody to kill somebody. And the only people that would hire somebody to kill somebody would be, say it with me, dark triads. So, and it was just amazing how they wanted to hurt, harm, kill, et cetera. And thank God, as soon as they filled out the form, it got sent to a police department and they got arrested. So, but they want you to be afraid. They do. That's why they use the anger. That's why they use anger. They do. They use the anger because they want you to fawn, and you're not fawning. You stop doing that. So that pisses them off. So they're going to punish you. They're going to scream and yell and make you do what they want. And what they're realizing is that they have no power over you. So the best thing to do is that's why they're screaming and yelling, because it's like, it's not, the other stuff isn't working. So we're going to try this intimidation thing. So what you do is you just get calm. You just get calm and you get out as soon as you possibly can, and you get away from them and you go no contact. So when I was working at the homeless shelter, I had, numerous alcoholic, drug addicts, whatever, who would get angry as all hell that I told them that the only way to get clean and sober was to stop using. Kind of logical, you would think. And one of them got right up in my face and was literally spitting in my face as they were talking. And I just looked at him. My heart, however, was, pounding. And I was waiting for him to do something physical, because I was going to take him out if that was the case. But yeah. And what I did is I gray rocked. And I just basically told him that was absolutely inappropriate and he will be removed from this group and not come back. And of course, he didn't want that because that was part of his conditional release from prison. So, yeah. So, but you stay calm with them. If you gray rock them and give them nothing, they will implode. They will, because he finally spent himself, slamming stuff and ran out of the office because he wasn't getting the response he was looking for. He was looking for me to fight him. So you kind of, somebody said this so well the other day. It's like Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, so you got to know when to do the fight response, when to gray rock, and basically always the right choice is gray rocking. Don't give them anything. Will that piss them off? Yeah. Are they going to implode? Yeah. And if they lay a hand on you, you call the police. You call the police. You call the police. You file an assault charge. Absolutely. So don't be afraid of them. That's what they want. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be terrified. They want you to go back to fawning. So the best thing to do is to get away from them. Go no contact. Okay. I want to have clear boundaries between my emotions and others' emotions. However, I seem to absorb other feeling states, especially the negative ones. How do I stop being a sponge? The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, Codependent No More by Melanie Beattie. Absolutely. Also, journaling, writing. Okay. What is truly your emotion? So, for example, in a dysfunctional family, when somebody is very attuned to the abuser, you'll walk in and you'll know immediately that they have that attitude, right? And suddenly you'll take on that anger, or you'll take on that sadness, or you'll take on whatever it is, because you're mirroring them. You're mirroring them. So what you want to do is you want to check in with your gut. What are you truly feeling? Am I really angry? Is this mine? And you start differentiating what is mine, what is somebody else's. Wait a minute, I was in a perfectly good mood until I came across, I don't know, this person, Susie. I came across Susie and she was just in a bad mood, and suddenly I'm in a bad mood. Oh, that's not my bad mood. That's Susie's bad mood. Oh, I was mirroring her. Ooh, what is going on? And then you start noticing, who are you around and what emotions are you picking up? And is it yours really? Or is it somebody else's? And then you give yourself permission to maintain your mood no matter what Susie or anybody else is doing. Does that make sense? So yeah, so it's a learned behavior. It is, because we learn to mirror our abuser so that they leave us alone, basically. It was a way to stay safe. Doesn't work so much as an adult outside of the family anymore. So it's really important to start working on, is this Susie's mood? Is this my mood? And trust your gut. Trusting your gut also means self-esteem, also means boundaries. So all of these things you need to work on. The self-esteem workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, Codependent No More, Beyond Codependent No More, Melanie Beattie, Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, and doing mirror work and doing journaling. What's mine, what's theirs, what's mine, what's theirs. And that's how you start differentiating between you and other people. So yeah, everybody who's been through this has to do that to get to that point, to understand what's yours and what's theirs. So yep, totally common. Okay. How do you stand up for yourself when there are multiple family members that are abusing and resort to violence if you try to live your own life in a way they don't like? You go no contact and get away from them. You go no contact and get away from them. They are not going to change. When somebody has broken one of your deal breakers, you get away from them and you go no contact. One of those deal breakers should be violence. If somebody gets violent with you, you go no contact. Call the police, make a report, then go no contact, file an order of protection. So, when these people have shown you who they are, don't stick around. Don't expect a different behavior. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. They're not going to change. They're not. So if multiple family members are being, inappropriate and abusive, you go no contact with the lot of them and you get away from them. That's a strong boundary. That's basically saying, nope, no more. I'm done. Goodbye. And if you have to, you leave, you move. You do. Like, say, for example, okay, here's a great example. Let's say that there are family members in a certain section of town. Phoenix is a big area, but let's say that they happen to live in your section of town. and they're starting to do the crazy stuff. They're stalking, they're calling, they're abusive, they're leaving things on your car, blah, 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 blah. At that point, you would be smart to move and not tell anybody where you're moving to, preferably to the other side of the valley. Do you see where I'm going with that? Or another state or another city or, whatever. So, and that isn't always possible, but it's kind of like, okay, what are your options? What are the pros and cons? What are the cons of staying where you're at? What are the pros of staying where you're at? And you do whichever list is going to be longer. So in some cases, yeah, if there's multiple family members that are violent and abusive, the best thing to do is to get the heck out. Get the heck out of Dodge and make sure that wherever you move, that nobody is giving away your address, to these people. And if they do, you stop talking to them. So yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. One more question here. How do you regain trust and not be guarded after realizing how many narcissists are in your life and separating from them? Trust takes time. You're always going to be guarded. You are. A little less once you start trusting your own gut, but you're always going to be guarded. So I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. It's like, I inherently do not trust people. I don't, because of my experience with my dad and teachers and things like that. I'm kind of like Missouri, show me, show me, prove it, that kind of thing. So you're always going to have that guardedness. You're always going to have that mistrust because that's what we've learned. And quite frankly, there's a lot of people out there that don't deserve our trust. Trust needs to be earned. It does. Trust needs to be earned. They literally have to show you they are trustworthy. Anybody has to do that. So, but for us, it's really a matter of, okay, is this person trustworthy? Is this person not trustworthy? What's the deal? So, and it's just trusting your gut. You got to trust your gut first. You got to trust you first. You got to work on the self-esteem and trust your gut, trust you, and then put your feelers out and go, is this person trustworthy or not? What is my gut telling me? And listen to that. Your gut will not steer you wrong. The head and the heart will tell stories. The gut doesn't. It's a simple yes or no answer to a yes or no question. So anyway, there that is. Okay, next week, let's talk about, and I've had a lot of questions on this, how to handle it, how to grieve it, how to cope with it. Should the kids side with the abuser? They're adults and they're just not coming back. They've got grandkids. You're not able to see them because that whole side of the family's been poisoned. So what to do? So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about grieving, and we're going to talk about how to handle it if you can't see the grandkids, how to handle it if you can't see the kids, or if the kids have been poisoned and they're adults and they're just absolutely adamant that they're not going to see you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about that. All right, my loves, go have a fabulous week. And I will do a Q&A on Wednesday and post that up. So you guys be good to yourselves and each other. Drink plenty of water. Go get some exercise. Get out in the sunshine. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.